Hey class, here's the excel4 that we're going to do in class on Friday. Second attempt at creating this video for you. Apologize that we can't meet on Friday, but I'll see you all Tuesday for course evaluations, some Outlook, and some presentations. So we're going to look at pivot tables. I usually don't do this in our class, but I wanted to show you some different ways we can look at data. And of course, our exercise isn't in any kind of order, so we'll do one at a time. So we're going to be using our insert recommended pivot tables function for this exercise. So we're being told to go to A2, go to recommended pivot tables, choose the sum of month by location one, and hit OK. All right, rolling. And we see Excel put this in a new sheet for us, named Sheet 1. Now we want to change the name of this pivot table. So under pivot table analyze, we see pivot table. We select more. We just type PT1. Enter. So we're going to add fields to a table, that pivot table now. Still on sheet 1 with our just created pivot table. We want to remove fire and police from this report. So we're going to take it from our rows section of our pivot table fields and drag it up to filters. And we want to add a classification to this pivot table. And now we're being told to expand A5. So we click in A5, we right click and do expand collapse. And we're going to do expand entire field. Now we're being told from our pane, from the field section, we want to drag month into the columns. We'll click month, move it to columns. And now we have each row classified by month. Now we're being told to go to Design tab for our pivot table. We're going to click more for pivot table styles. We want the second row and for style. And we can close the pivot table phase group. Sorry. And we wanted it under medium. The second row for style. Now we can close it. So now we're going to use the slicer to filter our pivot table data. Slicing is just taking our pivot table and cutting out what we want to really see. We're going to click on our pivot table analyze menu. And we're going to find the filter group, which is a bit to the left of center. And we're going to tick insert slicer. And we're going to do so by the fire and police row. And we're going to hit OK. So with our slicer menu item in place now, we want to change our style to dark, the second one. Then now we only want to see fire calls that are displayed. So we can just tick off police. And then click fire. It showed you how to do both there. Now we want to insert a new slice slicer for the classification field, and it will automatically go for us. So same steps, we click in our pivot table, go to pivot table analyzer, and then we take classification. And now we have the fields for classification that we can choose. And we only want to see emergency medical calls. Our next task, we want to do something with the right click menu for the sheet name. So we right click on sheet 1, and we're going to click move or copy. We're going to create a copy of this. And okay. And now we have a slicers table spreadsheet automatically created for us. Scrolling down the flow forward, we're going to clear some filters. So we want to move to the sheet 1 worksheet where we first started to do slicers. We want to clear the filter from the classification slicer and the police slicer, so we can click that X on both of these. And now we can remove both slicers. We right click and hit remove fire police, and right click and remove classification. Moving to cell A1. We want to see the pivot table mains feed, so click analyze. I right clicked on our pivot table itself. Options should have been good enough for us, but we seen that it wasn't, so we did it now properly. Now it wants us to hover over a location in our selection, and now we click the down arrow. Sorry. Our search box, we want to type station 3. Hit OK. Now we see the records for station 3. And we can clear this filter by ticking the icon, much like we did when we had table set up. We can clear the location, and we're all set with 4.4. Or 5, we're going to rearrange our pivot table report. So we're on sheet 1, and we're told to remove the month field from the columns area. We want to drag classification from rows to columns, so we're going to change the layout of our report, and we can close our pane. So now we want to move our dispatched calls to and we want to move it down twice. So after we right clicked and we went to move, we're being told to move it down. So there's once. We'll do it again. And we've rearranged that pivot table. We're going to display pivot table report details in a new worksheet now. So on sheet 1, we want to show the details for E15. So we're going to E15. And then right click and do show details. Go back to that again. So now we have a third sheet created because of that activity. We want to use quick analysis to apply data bars to the table. So we right click again to use quick analysis. And we want data bars, which is our first option. We want to rename this sheet major crimes, so we'll right click on it, click rename, and type major crimes. And that's it for 406. 407, we're going to display data on separate pages. We're going to rename sheet 1, so we're going to click sheet 1, right click, and rename. And we're going to type combined calls pivot table. So in this worksheet, we want to click A1 and go to pivot table analyze in the pivot table group. Now we're going to click the options arrow to bring up some options, and we're going to do show report filter pages, and we're going to do it for fire and police, and OK. And we have 2 new sheets with fire and police. With our fire sheet still active, we're going to go to pivot table analyze and the pivot table group again. We're going to click the name box. We're going to type PT4 and enter. And we're going to click the police sheet. Go back to the same area, change our name to PT3. Enter. And that takes care of 407. Now we're going to change calculations in our pivot table, in the combined calls pivot table, and click on it. So they're already showing this. So I'm going to use a learning aid here. So I'm not sure what they're trying to get me to do. Yeah, I guess I didn't need it. So what I did, I right clicked and did field show field list, bring this up, and in values where this was sum, I had changed it to average. Tell us to close the pane. We're going to right click any numeric value. And our shortcut menu and the value field settings. Which is in not our shortcut menu, it's in our right click menu. In the lower left corner, we're going to click number format. And then we're going to choose number format. We want no decimal places, so we hit that tick twice. And we're going to use the 1000 separator. And we're going to click OK twice. And now we formatted those numbers with no decimal places and proper notation. Format is going to have us format our report. We want to go to our police sheet. In A1, we're going to type police department. A3, we're going to type number of calls. And we're going to move to the pivot table design tab. And our pivot table styles group. We're going to change our style under medium, the first row, second style. Then we're going to auto fifth column A. And I did so by using my cross and double clicking. Off the 410, we're going to update data in the report. We want to go to the last sheet, the fire and police calls. We're going to change the value in E3 to 824. E11 we're going to do 778. We're going to go to the combined calls pivot table and analyze and data. We're going to refresh our data. And that's how we update our pivot table. We're going to create a pivot chart report from pivot table report. So what we're doing here, combined calls, is to highlight it. We want to click A1. And our Analyze tab under Tools, we're going to choose Pivot Chart. And we want a clustered column, which is the first one chosen for us. We'll hit OK. Now we're going to move this to a new sheet. Right click and then choose More Chart. We're going to do a sheet. We're going to name it First Quarter Chart. And OK. We're going to apply layout 1 to the chart. The quick layouts, we're going to choose layout 1. And we want to apply now chart style 14. So move over to chart styles, hit the more. We find which one is 14. It's our last one. We want to change our title to First Order Calls. And click outside that namespace. And that's it for 411. 412, we're going to modify a report. We still have our chart chosen, and we have some fields that we can manipulate at the top left and the middle right that's coming from our pivot table pane. So we want to filter the chart so only police calls are displayed. We go to classification, and we're going to untick select all, and we're just going to do, isn't it? We're going to hit the down arrow where it says first quarter fire and police calls, and we're going to hit OK. Now we want to change classification, which I tried to do first, to just dispatched calls. Originally it had everything chosen, so we unticked it, did dispatched calls, and OK. Oh, displaced calls are not displayed, so the helps if I red. So we select everything all, untick displaced calls, and hit OK. Still in our design tab, In our type group, we want to change our chart type. And we want a stacked column chart, which is our second option. And OK. I want to display the chart elements list. We want to add data labels. I want to display the pivot chart fields pane. Right click and go show field list. In the values area, which is all the way at the bottom, we want to click the average number of calls, which we had set previously. And we want to move down to value field settings, which is our last option. We want to click sum. Under summarize value field by. We want to hide all chart field buttons. Don't require to do this one.
Activity 412, Modifying a Pivot Chart Report. In the upper left corner of the chart, click the First Quarter Fire and Police Calls button or filter arrow, and then click Select Multiple Items. Clear the All checkbox in the filter list to deselect all items. Click the Police checkbox and delete. On the Design tab, click Change Chart Type, point to Column, and then under 2D, click the second type, Stacked Column. On the Design tab, in the Chart Layouts group, click Add Chart Element, point to Data Labels, and then click Center. With the chart selected, click the Pivot Chart Analyze tab, and then in the Show Hide group, click Field List to display the Pivot Chart Fields pane. In the Pivot Chart Fields pane, in the Values area, click Average Number of Calls, and then click Value Field Settings. In the Value Field Settings dialog box, click Sum, and then click OK. Mac users, display the Combined Calls pivot table sheet, and then click any numeric value in the pivot table. On the Pivot Table Analyze tab, in the Active Field group, click Field Settings. Click Sum, and then click OK. On the Pivot Chart Analyze tab, in the Show Hide group, click the Field Buttons arrow, click Hide All so that the field buttons do.
That's what I need to see is field buttons, and I want you paying attention. So we're going to do hide all. And close our pivot table panes group. And 412 is complete. And it looks like 413. So where our tabs are, we want to display all 7 of our sheets. So we click on the arrow, we get these 2 horizontal lines with arrows. I don't know why it didn't work the first time. Now we're moving combine calls to the left, so it's the first worksheet. So we click and drag it to move it before slicers. We're going to hide fire and police one. Right click it and hit hide. And that's it for the exercise. Again, this one probably be a little challenging doing on our own. If I see we're having troubles with it on Tuesday, we'll go over this in class on Tuesday again as well. So let me know how you're doing over the weekend, and I'll talk to you Tuesday. Thanks.